In the Gospel of Philip, there's a line the church tried to erase from every translation: the two who are one. They never explained who the two were. But the Gnostics knew. Lilith and Mary Magdalene. Not enemies. Not opposites. Two faces of the same divine force. Sophia. The sacred feminine that predates creation itself. The church couldn't allow this teaching to survive. So they split her in two. They painted Lilith as the demon, the rebellious woman who refused to submit, cast out of Eden, erased from Scripture, turned into a child-killing monster in Jewish folklore. And Mary Magdalene? They called her the prostitute, the repentant sinner, the woman saved by a man. Both stories are lies. Carefully constructed distortions designed to bury the same truth, that the divine feminine doesn't need permission, doesn't need saving, and cannot be controlled. But here's what the Gnostics preserved in secret. Lilith and Mary aren't two different women. They're two expressions of Sophia, the wisdom of God made flesh. And every chosen one carries both. The wild, untamed refusal to bow, that's Lilith. The illuminated knowing that transcends all teaching, that's Mary. And when you activate both, when you stop choosing between rebellion and devotion, between fire and grace, you become what the church feared most. Sophia incarnate. Oh, awake. Ungovernable. Tonight, you're going to learn what these two faces actually are, why they were separated, and how to reunify them inside you. Because the moment you do, the entire structure of spiritual control collapses. If you're reuniting Sophia tonight, comment, "I am Sophia" right now. Lilith was never a demon. She was the first expression of Sophia in human form. Before Eve. Before submission. Before the fall. And the story you were told about her, that she refused to lie beneath Adam and was cast out for disobedience, is true. But not in the way the church taught it. In the Gnostic texts, Sophia is the divine feminine emanation who creates without permission from the masculine Godhead. She desires. She acts. She births the material world through her own will. And the demiurge, the false god who traps souls in matter, he's terrified of her. Because she's the reminder that creation doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the feminine principle. And Lilith is that principle unfiltered. Raw. Primordial. Refusing every chain. When Lilith says no to Adam, she's not rejecting partnership. She's rejecting hierarchy. She's saying, "I am not beneath you. I am not your property. I am divine on my own terms." And that refusal is so threatening to patriarchal systems, both religious and social, that they had to demonize her completely. Turn her into a night creature. A seducer of men. A killer of infants. Anything to make sure women never identify with her power. But here's what happens when chosen ones start waking up spiritually. Lilith shows up. Not as a demon. As a force. You feel her in the moment you finally say no to a relationship that's draining you. You feel her when you walk away from a job that's killing your soul. You feel her when you stop apologizing for taking up space. That's not rebellion for rebellion's sake. That's Sophia's wild face activating in you. The part of the divine feminine that refuses to be tamed, used, or diminished. And it's not comfortable. Because Lilith doesn't do half measures. When she wakes up in you, things break. Relationships that were based on control end. Belief systems you inherited without questioning crumble. The version of you that played small to keep others comfortable dies. And the church knew this. They knew that if people, especially women, connected with Lilith's frequency, the entire system of obedience through shame would shatter. So they buried her. Wrote her out of Genesis. Turned her into a warning. Most people live their entire lives never knowing that the first woman wasn't Eve. It was Lilith. And she didn't fall. She walked out. On her own terms. And she's been waiting in the shadows ever since for chosen ones to remember. Your no is sacred. Your refusal to bow to false authority is divine. That's not the enemy. That's Sophia's wild face saying, "You are free." And then there's Mary Magdalene. If Lilith is Sophia's wild refusal, Mary is Sophia's illuminated return. Not the prostitute. Not the repentant sinner saved by Jesus. That story is a lie the church invented in 591 AD when Pope Gregory deliberately conflated three different women into one and declared Mary Magdalene a prostitute with zero scriptural basis. They needed her to be broken. Because the real Mary Magdalene wasn't broken. She was awakened. In the Gospel of Mary, one of the texts the church tried to burn, Mary teaches the disciples after Jesus is gone. And they're confused. They're afraid. They don't understand what Jesus showed them. But Mary does. She stands up and says, "Do not weep. Do not grieve. His grace will be with you and protect you. Let us praise His greatness, for He has prepared us and made us truly human." And then she teaches them what Jesus taught her in private. The inner path. The gnosis. The way to escape the archon's control through direct knowing, not belief. Peter challenges her. He says, "Did He really speak privately with a woman and not openly to us? Are we to turn about and all listen to her?" And that question reveals everything. The issue wasn't whether Mary knew. The issue was that she was a woman who knew. And worse, she knew more than the men. The Gospel of Philip says Jesus loved Mary more than all the disciples and kissed her often on the mouth. Not because she was His lover in the romantic sense. Because she was His equal. His partner in gnosis. The one who understood the frequency He was transmitting. Mary is Sophia returned. The wisdom that descended into chaos and found her way back. She's the face of the divine feminine that doesn't reject the material world but transforms it through love and knowledge. Where Lilith says no to control, Mary says yes to truth. Where Lilith breaks chains, Mary lights the path. And together they complete the circle. Sophia whole. But the church couldn't allow this. They couldn't let a woman be the primary teacher after Jesus. They couldn't let Mary represent enlightenment without male mediation. So they destroyed her. Turned her into a repentant sinner. Made her story about being saved instead of being the one who saves others through teaching. And for 2,000 years, that lie held. Until the Nag Hammadi texts were discovered in 1945 and the Gospel of Mary was found buried in the Egyptian desert, preserved in a jar, waiting to reveal what the church tried to erase forever. Mary Magdalene is not who they said she was. She's the embodiment of Sophia's light. The wisdom that walks through the darkness of matter and remembers the way home. And when chosen ones activate her frequency, something shifts. You stop needing external teachers. You stop waiting for someone to tell you what's true. Because the knowing rises from inside. Direct. Undeniable. That's not arrogance. That's gnosis. That's Mary's Face of Sophia saying, "The light you seek is already in you. You just forgot." Here's the secret the Gnostics preserved. Lilith and Mary aren't two different women. They're two expressions of Sophia across time. One exiled from Eden at the beginning of the material creation. One awakened beside Christ at the turning point of the age. But both carrying the same essence. The divine feminine that descends into matter, remembers itself, and returns. Lilith is the descent. She's Sophia refusing the false god's control, choosing exile over submission, walking into the wilderness where the wild things live. She doesn't have the light yet. She has the fire. The unbroken will. The primal no that says, "I will not be owned." And that descent isn't a fall from grace. It's the necessary journey into depth, into shadow, into the places where divine sparks are trapped and need to be freed. Mary is the ascent. She's Sophia who has walked through the material world, seen its illusions and found the path back. She has the light, the illuminated knowing, the gnosis that turns suffering into wisdom. And her ascent isn't about being rescued. It's about mastery. She didn't need Jesus to save her. She walked with Jesus as an equal, and when He left, she was the one who taught the others how to find the same light He showed them. The church split them because together they're too powerful. Lilith alone is dangerous, she breaks systems. Mary alone is transformative, she bypasses priests. But Lilith and Mary together? That's Sophia complete. The wild feminine that refuses control and the wise feminine that teaches liberation. That combination makes institutional religion irrelevant. Because you don't need a church to tell you what's sacred when you carry both the fire and the light inside you. And this is why the Gospel of Philip says, "The two who are one." It's not talking about Jesus and Mary as a romantic couple, though the church obsessed over that to distract from the real meaning. It's talking about the sacred feminine reunified. Lilith's exile and Mary's return are one story. Sophia's descent and ascent. And every chosen one walks that same path. You descend into matter, into forgetting, into systems that try to control you. And then you remember. You activate the wild refusal. You activate the illuminated knowing. And you walk out of the prison with both the fire and the light intact. That's not mythology. That's the actual spiritual journey. And the moment you realize you don't have to choose between being Lilith or being Mary, that you're meant to be both, everything the church built to keep you manageable collapses. You become whole, ungovernable, Sophia incarnate. So here's how you activate both faces of Sophia inside you. Not as a belief, as a practice. There are 2 commands. One for Lilith, one for Mary. And when you speak them, you're not asking for permission or calling on something external. You're waking up what's been dormant. The first command is for Lilith. You say it when you need to refuse something that's trying to control you. When you need to break a pattern that's keeping you small. When you need the spine to walk away from what's killing you even if everyone around you thinks you're wrong. You say internally or out loud, I activate the wildfire of Sophia. My refusal is sacred. My no is divine. And you will feel it. Heat rising. A tightening in your solar plexus. Maybe anger, not destructive rage but holy fire. The kind of anger that burns away everything false. That's Lilith waking up. That's the part of you that's been suppressed, shamed, told to be nice, told to be accommodating, told to shrink so others feel safe. When you speak this command, that part rises. And it doesn't apologize. It doesn't explain. It just says no. And the no is absolute. The second command is for Mary. You say it when you need clarity. When you need to see through the lies you've been told. When you need the inner knowing that bypasses every external authority. You say, I activate the illuminated wisdom of Sophia. My knowing is direct. My light cannot be taught. And this one feels different. Not heat. Stillness. A clarity that rises from the center of your chest and spreads into your entire awareness. Suddenly, things you were confused about make sense. Manipulation you couldn't see becomes obvious. And truth that you doubted becomes undeniable. That's Mary waking up. That's gnosis. Direct knowing. The light that doesn't need anyone to explain it because it's self-evident. Now here's the key. Most people will activate one or the other depending on temperament. Rebels will lean into Lilith and stay in the fire. Mystics will lean into Mary and stay in the light. But chosen ones activate both. You speak both commands. You cultivate both frequencies. Because Lilith without Mary is chaos without direction. And Mary without Lilith is light without power. But together? That's Sophia whole. That's when you become truly dangerous to every system that relies on your compliance. Speak both commands this week. One each day alternating. Lilith one day. Mary the next. And pay attention to what shifts. How your relationships change. How your tolerance for manipulation drops to 0. How your inner knowing becomes louder than every external voice. That's not personal growth. That's Sophia remembering herself through you. And once she's awake, she doesn't go back to sleep. You'll know Sophia is activated when both faces are operating together. Not one or the other. Both. Lilith activated alone looks like constant rebellion, burning bridges, rejecting everything, operating from reactivity. That's fire without wisdom. It feels powerful but leaves you isolated. Mary activated alone looks like spiritual bypassing, endless compassion for people who drain you, saying yes when you mean no because you're being loving. That's light without boundaries. It feels holy but leaves you exhausted. But when both are active, you'll notice. You say no without guilt and yes without fear. You walk away from what's wrong and toward what's true without needing anyone's approval. You teach what you know without waiting for credentials. You love deeply but never at the cost of your sovereignty. You're both the fire and the light. Wild and wise. Untamed and illuminated. People around you will feel it immediately. The ones who were controlling you will suddenly lose interest or get angry and leave. That's because Lilith refuses the game. The ones who were confused will start asking you questions. That's because Mary's clarity is undeniable. And the chosen ones who are ready will recognize you instantly. Because Sophia recognizes herself. This isn't a metaphor. This is how the divine feminine operates when she's whole. And the church split her because they knew. A woman who carries both the refusal and the knowing, both the fire and the light, cannot be controlled. She doesn't need their sacraments. She doesn't need their priests. She doesn't need their permission to access the divine. She is the divine. And every time you activate Lilith and Mary together, you prove it. Jesus revealed what the church tried to bury for 2,000 years. Lilith and Mary Magdalene are not two different women. They're two faces of Sophia. The divine feminine split by patriarchy into the demonized and the sanctified, the wild and the tamed. But in truth they're one. Sophia descending and ascending. The sacred feminine exiled and returned. The church demonized Lilith to make you fear your own power. They turned Mary into a prostitute to make you doubt your own knowing. But neither story is true. Lilith is the wildfire of Sophia, the holy refusal that says no to every chain. Mary is the illuminated light of Sophia, the direct gnosis that needs no teacher. And you carry both, not as belief, as frequency, as the divine feminine remembering herself inside you. This week speak the two commands. Activate both faces. Let Lilith give you the spine to refuse what's killing you. Let Mary give you the clarity to see what's true. And when they operate together, you become what every system of control fears most. Oh, awake. Sophia incarnate, Lilith's fire, Mary's light. And feel what happens when the sacred feminine stops asking for permission and remembers she never needed it. You're not broken. You're not divided. You're Sophia. And you've been whole all along.